Welcome to the Rebuilt Man podcast. I am your host and founder, Coach Frank Rich, and we are so excited to be launching a brand new series today. I'm joined by an incredible gentleman, our head coach inside the Rebuilt Man community, Coach Arnold. And what we are bringing to you guys here today with the launch of this new series is our Q&A episodes. So we have surveyed both our group and our community of men and also my audience, and we've come up with a list of questions that we're going to answer. So these are straight from the audience and from you guys, and from guys that are out there struggling. So what I've realized in the last 2 years is I could sit here every single week, every single day and preach from the mountaintop. I believe that there are things that I know that you guys are going to need in order to break free, but we wanted to get the questions answered from the guys that are in the pit, that are in the struggle, and hopefully bring some clarity, some insight, some breakthrough through these questions. So Coach Arnold and I are going to go through this list of questions, and we're going to get it through as many as we possibly can. But the exciting thing here is this is the launch of a new series. So expect these Q&A episodes at a minimum 2 times per month. Now, if we get flooded with questions after today's episode, we may ramp that up. But once again, guys, this is answering the biggest questions, concerns, struggles, and challenges that guys that are in the pit of the struggle are going through right now. So we're ready to dive in, guys. We're ready to bring value and hopefully lead you down the path of breaking free, breaking through, and creating your own porn-free life. So Arnold, my brother, welcome to the Rebuilt Man podcast. Excited to have you here today.
I am excited to be here. This is great. I very much look forward to this, and I feel it's going to be very helpful for a lot of folks. So
likewise. So you got the questions there, man. I'm going to pass it to you, and let's go ahead and dive into question number 1.
All right, let's dive in. So here's a great one. Why can't I stop watching porn? I think that's a very legit question. It's been asked by everybody who discovers that they have a problem with it. And then the next question is, okay, why can't I stop? Right? So take a step.
Yeah, guys. And I think what we're going to do here is I'm going to, because there's so many different responses that we can give to this question. So our goal here is to have both myself and Arnold give answers and responses to these questions. But my immediate train of thought is you're asking the wrong question. Instead of trying to figure out why you can't stop, ask the question, why do you keep returning? What is porn providing to you? What problem is it solving in your life? If you truly are telling yourself that you want to quit and you're still struggling, that means that you haven't identified the problem that porn is solving in your life, because it's solving something for you, right? It's an escape of an emotional wound. It's an escape from an emotional feeling that you are uncomfortable in sitting in. It is allowing you to procrastinate from bigger problems and issues in your life. It's allowing you to avoid chasing and pursuing deeper, more meaningful pursuits in your life. So I would say, how do I stop watching porn? You got to start by asking yourself better questions. You know, Tony Robbins, who I know you're a massive fan of, Arnold, says the quality of your life will be dictated by the quality of the questions that you ask. So I'm glad you started with that one, because I think it's going to set the tone here. It'll be interesting to see what we get later on. That most men are struggling because they're not asking the right type of questions. And I think that is a response that transcends just recovery or just freedom. I think most people in their life are stuck in mediocrity or stuck accepting their current place because they aren't asking the right questions about how did I get here? You're fat, you're overweight, you're out of shape. You're not walking in the standard of health and fitness that you know you should be. You're probably not asking the right questions about how do you achieve the things that you say you want. You know, I was on a call earlier this morning before you and I jumped on here with a coaching student client, a man inside of our community. And we were having this discussion and conversation around drive and motivation and the place that it comes from. And this question, I think, is rooted in you're trying to get your life out of pain. We talked about this a few weeks back on one of the Brotherhood calls. Running from pain in your life is only going to get you so far. You have to begin to desire the life without porn more than you accept the current life. Napoleon Hill said, all success in life, the beginning point of all success is desire. This person, I can clearly tell, doesn't desire a life of freedom more than they accept their current state that they are in. So all this response is rooted in, brother, you got to ask deeper, more meaningful, better questions if you're really going to change your life. What do you think, Arnold?
Yeah, that was there's a reason why we're in this together, because we're on the same page. Like, that was the first thing I thought of as well, is that there's something wrong with the question. Language is extremely important. So when you ask something like, why can't I stop watching porn? You're affirming yourself that you are helpless, right? And that in itself is an affirmation. Why can't I stop watching porn? You're affirming to yourself the problem. And, really, it's not that you can't stop. You've stopped many times, but why do you keep starting back up?
Yes.
Because that's really the problem. We've all done things one time, but that it's not a problem. The problem is when we can't stop. We keep going back and restarting the activity. And that's when the awareness has to come in and say, why do I keep picking this back up? What am I avoiding? Like you said, because this is an avoidance. This is something that you trained yourself. Uncomfortable emotions, uncomfortable situations, conversations come up, and then this comes in as a solution to that. And a lot of times it happens automatically, because the triggering situation happens that upsets you, and you just, boom, go into this automatically. And that's why you can't stop, in a sense, right? It's you just keep picking back up, because you all of us has stopped this many times. It's never the stopping that's the problem. It's the starting back up. Because when you stop, you say, I'm never touching this again. It's over. I'm done. And then next thing you know, you're doing it again. And that's what you need to look at, right? Like, do the deep dive. And like you said, there are bigger issues here than the activity. There's something bigger that's hiding that you need to uncover, because that is going to be the driving force behind this behavior and behind you constantly reaching for this, to self-medicate out of the state you find yourself in. And instead,
the question is rooted in victim mentality. Sorry to jump in here, but I think
absolutely.
what your response is pointing to is that the question is rooted in victim mentality.
Yeah,
I'm
100%.
a victim of this thing. I'm the victim of the act of consuming porn, and it's like, no, you're sitting in the driver's seat every single time you open up that browser. You are making the choice and decision to return back to it. And maybe to give the person a hope that asked this question, or anybody out there that has had this consistent thought, and then we'll move on to the next one, is look back in the areas of life that you've succeeded. You see, this is why, the Rebuilt Man is built on a growth-centric approach, right? We've all accomplished and succeeded at something in our lives. We may not see it as, in comparison to what we see other people, and this is the challenge with social media and the comparison world that we all live in, but there's things that you're doing today that in the past you didn't know how to do. How did you do that? Who were you before you couldn't do the thing, and who are you now? In the same process that took you to learn how to ride a bike, to learn how to launch a business, to learn how to run Facebook ads, to learn how to do the career, industry, field, whatever the expertise is that you hold, no matter who you are, you hold something in terms of a skill today that you didn't have in the past. That same approach is going to be the pathway that you're going to be able to create freedom, right? Creating freedom. It's a growth-oriented approach, a paradigm of life that we see ourselves through. I don't yet have the skills to live in freedom yet. So what skills must I acquire? Yeah. Now it makes it from a tangible, I can acquire and attain the skills to do this.
It's a very loaded question for sure. It implies so many things, including the fact that you're out of control, you're powerless. So instead, I would say something down the lines of like, affirm to yourself that I am a man who has power over my choices.
Yeah.
Instead of I'm a man who doesn't, because that's what the question really implies.
Here's the last response. We'll move on to the next one. Why can't I stop watching porn? Because you don't want freedom more than you are accepting the life, right? Eric Thomas, the whole story where he took a young man out into the water and he put his head underneath the water and like basically kind of forced the kid to struggle breathing underneath because it was a lesson on success. You'll have success in your life when you want success as bad as you wanted to breathe when your head was underwater. So create enough pain in your life with porn right now that you want a life out of it more than you accept the one that you're currently living.
Yep.
Next
All right. I think we wrapped that up pretty well. I mean, like you said, we can talk about that whole question the whole time. So it's a very loaded one. But let's move on to the next one here. So I have this one. How do I even start the conversation with my wife about my porn addiction without completely breaking her heart or losing her trust?
And this will be a good one. I'm curious with your responses because I know this was an issue you had to navigate, so we're going to answer these questions from two different lenses and perspectives. One as never being a married man, but one that has coached hundreds of married guys over the years. I'll have some insights. And then Arnold, married and had to navigate this with his wife and has an incredibly supportive, strong woman in his life. So I think, number one, accepting the reality that she probably already knows something is up. If you're at the point where you're asking this in depth of a question, chances are your wife knows something is going on. Like you're feeling the need to ask this question because you feel the disconnect in the relationship. You feel the disconnect in the intimacy. Maybe you're even experiencing the negative effects in the bedroom, not being present, not pursuing her. So chances are your wife probably already knows that something is up. That doesn't mean she knows the depth of the struggle that you're going through right now, because we know that porn addicts are really good at hiding things, right? So maybe you're good at hiding things, but you can't be good at hiding everything. So accept it that when you go to her to share, she already knows that something is off. You're probably asking this question as well because she's giving you hints, right? That, hey, like there's something off between the two of us. Here's what I tell a lot of men, right? Is no woman wants to have their husband come to them with big problems in their life and not have solutions. So I wouldn't advise you to just go run to your wife and tell her, hey, babe, I'm struggling with watching porn right now, and I don't know what the hell I'm going to do. I think that's going to create even more disrespect, more disengagement in her attractiveness to you. So a recommendation here is get a plan and approach and have, I would even say, some success under your boat. Hey, babe, you probably felt off for a little while. I think we both have felt that there's been something off inside of our relationships. There's this tension in the home. We don't talk like we used to. I know I haven't pursued you like I'm supposed to, right? You and that's on me, and you deserve way better than that. What I realized, though, over the last couple of months is a lot of the struggles in our relationship are rooted in my challenges and issues with porn that I've had for a long time. I've struggled with it for decades, babe. I've just woken up. I found this incredible podcast, The Rebuild Man, and he shined a lot of insight and clarity on this issue with men all across the globe. What I realized, though, is I needed other people to help me, so I joined this community. I've now gone 6 weeks 100% free, and that's why I even feel comfortable and confident in having this conversation with you. So I think a couple takeaways, and I'd love to hear from you, Arnold, is know that she probably already knows something is off, right? And when you go to her, have a game plan of how you guys are going to conquer, how you're going to conquer your addiction, right? And you're going to change, and then what the pathway moving forward is. So what are the changes that you're going to make in the relationship? Now, moving forward, babe, I want to let you know I'm going to have brutal honesty in all areas of our life. I kept a lot of secrets from you, and you deserve a lot better. And I can understand you're probably hurt from that. Moving forward, there's 100% open and radical honesty between the two of us. You probably realize I haven't pursued you, but I want to remind you, you are the most beautiful woman in the world. I've allowed things to get control over me that never should have. But here's our plan moving forward: weekly date nights, time together here at home. So just a couple things, but I think the key is knowing that she probably is already aware that something is off, and then don't go to her with problems without having some type of solution moving forward.
Yeah. Yeah, no, obviously, like you said, I have personal experience with this very situation, and I also from other stories I've heard, it's very similar. It's like almost like there's a one right way to do this, and that is to just do it, because there is no easy way. You have to come clean, right? You have to just completely radical honesty. And unfortunately, and my wife said this as well, it will break her heart and she will lose trust in that moment, right? But that's something for her to overcome and work through. I'm not saying that as an equality, it's on you now, but you cannot hold back. You have to be honest, right? Because if you are holding back your honesty because you're afraid of her feelings, you're still not honest, and that still creates and also women are extremely intuitive. They might know that you have this problem before you know you have this problem. By the time you kind of figure out what's going on, she'll be like, I knew it. When you confess to her, she's not going to be shocked, right? As you are. Like, you'll be like, oh my God, I discovered. And she's like, yeah, I knew something's off. I just didn't know what it was. Which is why you hear a lot less women say when the man wants to divorce, like, I did not see this coming. It's a lot more men who say, it came out of nowhere, because the lack of awareness. They're way more aware and way more plugged into these things. So it's just like a Band-Aid, rip it off. You have to have that conversation. There is no easy way. And that's part of the problem. We always want to have our cake and eat it too. And sometimes that's not possible. You have to have the difficult conversations. And the earlier you have it, and the more you let out all at once, the easier things get put back together. But if you only trickle it out, you prolong this painful period of time when you're constantly going to break her heart and hurt her. Just let it all out at once and come clean, and then focus on repairing. And going back in time, if my wife would say something, or if she were to go back, she would say this, that just, there's no easy way to do it. Just do it.
Yeah.
And, breaking the heart, right? The heart's a muscle, and it becomes stronger like any other muscle, right? You tear it and it grows back together stronger, like you're tearing the muscle fibers. It might be a workout analogy, but it actually applies. Like, that's how the heart becomes. And this is like science too. It's proven that the more heart breaks it goes to, the stronger it gets, more resilient, and the trust returns because of the honesty part. We are so focused on the hurt that we want to withhold the hurt, but actually, if we let the honesty out, the hurt happens, trust will return, because trust comes hand in hand with honesty, right?
Yeah.
And
so the expectation for the guy asking this question, anybody out there that is, maybe going to go through something similar, should they expect it to get worse before it gets better, right? Symbolism within the rebuilt man is like there's a death and resurrection, right? There's going to be a period of pain and suffering that you got to go through in order to be truly rebuilt. And I think what you're saying is a lot of guys want to bypass that, right? Yeah. It's a cake and eat it too. I want to skip through the difficult part and get to the end destination. I want to live in this fantasy, everything is happy, without having to actually go through a lot of the suffering. I've seen it with a lot of guys. It's like there's a period where there's no trust in the wife. There's a lot of pain. There's a lot of shit that the guy's got to go through in order to truly rebuild and restore that marriage. So what is that expectation? Like, once you begin to have these conversations, you begin to work through this together.
Well, people who struggle with porn have a lot of wrong expectations when it comes to things about this, including what happens after you stop or what happens after you. You just have to be realistic that this is going to be a difficult conversation, and don't try to downplay it or upplay it. Just expect it for it to be what it's going to be. Because I think that's the biggest mistake. We, in our fantasy mind, we make stuff up in different ways than it really is. And that creates a lot of times fear that's based on something that's not even real. And it might not be as bad, because women are appreciative of honesty. They the problem, whatever you have, is something that she can handle. What hurts her more is you lying about it. So if you come to her with a problem and say, this is what I'm struggling with, and you're being 100% honest, you'll be surprised the support you'll get from her, right?
Yeah.
And that's the fear that men create in their minds that's not real. Because you are afraid of, because like I always tell them, like, have you tried? I don't know if she's gonna be like, but have you tried? Have you tell her, did she do that in the past when you told her something? We're like, well, no. And that's like a nice guy thing, right? Glover talks about that in the book, about how, you are afraid of people's feelings. You want to like cater them, but you don't even know, like, she's stronger than you are in many ways, right? So it's just rip the Band-Aid off and come clean. Radical honesty. It's the only way to getting out of this rut. It's the only way. And we know that, like, honesty, you have to be honest with yourself first, and then with everybody involved with you emotionally.
Yeah. I think we covered that one pretty well and in depth. Probably be our last one here. Let's get to question number 3. What do you got there?
Let's see. Why do I get triggered sometimes out of nowhere? It's a good one.
It's a good one.
It's a good one.
I think in very, very similar response to the first question that we asked, I think this one is lacking some real awareness and insight. It's not out of nowhere. Nope. I think if you took some time to pause in the moment, if you took some time to reflect, this is why, in the Rebuild Man, we have one of our daily 5 habits is daily self-reflection, reflecting upon the day. Where was I triggered? Where were my emotions maybe taking overwhelm of me? Where were things going well? I'm pretty sure whoever asked this question, if you took time to audit the last 3, 4, 5 times that you relapsed or chose to go back to porn, and you evaluated your day or 2 or 3 days around that incident, you would see some consistent patterns. You would see some patterns where you were avoiding responsibility, where you were not telling the truth, where you were slacking on doing the things that you should be doing, where you're not honoring commitments, where you maybe were not prioritizing self-care, right? Maybe you're just incredibly maybe you're trying to push the gas pedal too hard for too long, and every 4th day you're not fully recovered. So in those moments of sleep deprivation, low energy, porn seems like a really good idea to get you out of the pit. But I don't think triggers to porn come out of nowhere. And I don't know if I have a whole lot more to add to that. I think the question is just flawed in its understanding. But it's been 6 years plus since I was triggered to porn, so maybe I'm a little bit further away from the last time I felt an urge. What do you say, Arnold?
Well, without dismantling the question too much, right? Because we could talk about this for a whole podcast, like, how triggers are not really real. You create them, blah, blah, projecting the inside out. We're not going to go into that. But like you said, it's not out of nowhere.
Yeah.
It feels that way because you're out of touch with yourself. You are not fully self-aware of what you are doing. You check out, and that's why it feels like out of nowhere I got. And that goes with many things, like with diseases and stuff. Like all of a sudden, so and so out of nowhere got cancer. Nothing happens out of nowhere. That thing has built up underneath the surface, and then once it emerged, everybody's like, "Oh, it's here." It's been there, and if with enough self-awareness, as you cultivate that, you will be able to start seeing it build up way ahead of time. That's the progress. That's the work. When you start catching it earlier and earlier and earlier until you catch it right at formation, and then you can stop it in its tracks. But if you do get triggered and it does feel out of nowhere, you need to understand that, okay, you are not fully aware of your own like internal state, which is why it feels like it's coming to you out of nowhere. And that's when the feeling comes that I don't know if I'm going to be able to quit this ever.
Yeah.
Because everything seems to be going fine, and out of nowhere, I just overcome with this strong urge. And those are the feelings that make the guys like lose hope that I'm ever going to overcome this, because you feel so out of control because you literally did nothing, and it just came over you like a strong pull and urge to look at porn. And just to give them like hope to understand that it's not out of nowhere. It only feels that way, but it is not. And the more you learn to self-reflect, journaling is a great way to do that. And it's proven that if you write it down, right, you are like, I don't know how many times stronger than actual therapy, because you start to dive inside yourself. You start to find out who you are, what makes you tick, and you'll be able to start recognizing the patterns, because there's a reason why this is called an addictive cycle. It repeats itself. It leaves clues. And once you figure out that pattern, it's like, oh, this is where it starts. This is the thing. And then it follows a very, very predictable path. But for us, it's all hidden because we're so checked out. But the more checked in you become, the more and I would advise guys, whenever they're already there, let's say they missed all this, they're already there, they feel triggered, pause and breathe. Get out of that heightened state of awareness, because you're going to be at that point in survival mode, and you need to engage the parasympathetic, get calm, and that's when you can actually see what's going on. Until then, you will be in like this responsive state, like reactive state. You will not be able to respond.
And even if we cater to the person that asked this question, right? And let's say it does come out of nowhere. Okay.
Right.
It came out of nowhere. Are you committed to freedom, or are you going to be a victim to your state? Between stimulus and response is a space. In that space sits our ability to choose. We can choose in that moment, if it came out of nowhere, to still not act upon it. No matter where the trigger came from, still doesn't take the responsibility off of you, of what you decide to do in the moment, right? This all comes back to, I think, all three of these questions. The person was looking for the response and lacking personal ownership and 100% responsibility. I remember Tom Bilyeu saying on a podcast one time, Tom Bilyeu was one of the founders of Quest Nutrition, sold for $1 billion, now runs Impact University, Impact Theory podcast. Yep. He's talking about personal and radical responsibility, 100% extreme ownership. And he shared an example. If a meteor struck out of space and landed on his house and killed his wife while she was sleeping, he was the one that was responsible for it. And he's like, how can Tom be responsible for a meteor striking his wife while he's sleeping? Because he didn't do enough of work to understand the meteor showers, where they were coming from, our alignment within space. Now, it is that is a radical example, right? Like, who is actually studying the space and universe? I'm sure Elon Musk probably knows, right? I'm sure there's a person out there that probably knows exactly where we are in certain meteor strikes. But it's a level of personal responsibility and accountability that everything that happens in your life, both good and bad, is because of you and the choices that you make. We all have will. We all have the ability to make choices. So even if it does come out of nowhere, so what? Are you committed to freedom, or are you going to continue to be a victim to how you feel, right? Watching porn is never a rational response. It's emotionally driven. Freedom will be found when you no longer allow your emotions to dictate and drive your behaviors, and you act out of the things that you are committed to versus the way that you feel within the moment. That's the definition of discipline, doing the thing no matter how you feel in the moment.
Yeah, 100%. And, just to give the guys some grace is know that it's not out of nowhere. And that's important to outline because that will give you hope that, oh, this will change, this will get better. The more you grow that self-awareness, you won't feel as helpless when it comes.
Yeah.
And you won't feel like it's coming out of nowhere and you can never predict it. Yes, you can. Yes, you will be able to, and you'll be able to stop it before it even forms. 100%.
Yeah. Amen. Guys, we'll wrap it up with there. We were unsure of what we were going to get to here in terms of questions. We've got a list of many, many more. So as we said, expect these episodes coming out every 2 weeks. Now, if you have questions and you want to submit them to us, if you're watching us on YouTube, drop them down there in the comments below. If you're listening on the audio and you want to email them, you can email them to frank@rebuiltrecovery.com. If you're listening and your brother inside of the Rebuilt Man community, to send your questions directly to Coach Arnold. But we'll be back, guys. We covered 3 important ones here, very high level. I'm assuming in the next couple episodes, we'll go a little bit deeper into the weeds with you guys, but it's not about quitting. You're not going to be able to avoid the difficult conversation with your life, and your triggers are not coming out of nowhere, to recap today's conversation and episode. But we love you guys. We appreciate you hanging out with us here today. If you're getting value, rate, review, subscribe there on YouTube. And if you have somebody in your life that is struggling with these exact issues that we mentioned here today, do us the favor and then the blessing by sharing this episode with them. But for Coach Arnold, for the Rebuilt Man, your host, Coach Frank, we love you guys. See you in the next one.